Hola, mi clase. We are doing 5.2, writing linear equations now from a table. So we've actually done this. It's just more practice, and we are doing linear equations from just tables today. We don't have any key terms because we have been practicing all of our key terms. All right, so the table shows the temperature of a fish tank during an experiment. It asks you to graph the data, did it for you, and find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph. Then write an equation for the graph in slope-intercept form. So this graph is really hard to read. They're really, really close together and very, very small. So sometimes it's not best to use our graph. So we're going to use our table to find our slope and our y-intercept. So the really nice thing is there's our y-intercept because our first one's always x and our second one's always y. All right, so our b is 82. Now remember, for slope, you can pick 2 points, any 2 points you want. So maybe I do 80 take away 78 over, it's very crooked, 1 take away 2, and I get 2 over -1, which reduces to -2. Remember, the other way you can do it is find the difference just on your table. That's 1, subtract here, that's 1, and so on. And when I subtract this way, I actually get -2, right? I'm subtracting, I'm taking away more than I have. And then I can put my y difference over my x difference, and it is still -2. So that's our m. So now that we have our slope and we have our y-intercept, we can write our equation. Y equals -2x plus 82. And that is how we find the equation from a table. All right, so Elizabeth's cell phone plan lets her choose how many minutes are included each month. The table shows the plan's monthly cost. Y for every given number of included minutes x. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation. So the first step they tell us to do here, and this is really a great order, is to find the slope. So I really like to find the slope just by finding the difference. Not sure why my arrow just got messed up. So if I subtract from here to here, what? It's 100. And if I subtract from here to here, it's 100. And so on. And then if I subtract this way, 8 take away 2 is 6, and 3 take away 3 is 0, so I get 6. Not sure why it keeps doing that. There we go. Oh, except I just moved my whole table. There we go. And we subtract here, we also get 6. And we also get 6. And we also get 6. So then we put our y's over our x's. So it's 6 over 100. We do always need to reduce. We're going to reduce this by 2. And we get 3 over 50. So there's our slope. Now there's 2 ways we can find our y-intercept. One way, we use our equation y equals mx plus b. Does not help that my pen all of a sudden has decided to glitch. And we plug in our slope, 3 over 50. And we use one of our points. I like to use the smallest one, so let's use 100. I'm going to put it as 100 over 1. This is really getting frustrating. I do not understand why all of a sudden this is glitching. And I'm going to set it equal to 14. And then I'll write plus b.
Tara Hartman, can you give me a call here in the office? Tara, thank you.
So 100 times 3 is going to be 300, so we're going to have 14 equals 300 over 50. and then we'll write plus b. We can reduce 300 over 50. All right, how many times does even 5 go into 30? And so we would get 60. So now we have 14 equals 60 plus b. And then we subtract. And we need to find out what 14 take away 60 is. And we would get negative 46 equals b. Just realized something is wrong because I know that's not the y-intercept. Oh, silly me. This is just 6, not 60. Let's go like this. Erase that 0. I apologize. I'm like, I know that's not the y-intercept. So 14 take away 6, so much easier. And we get 8. That makes more sense. So that's one way we can plug it in. Hopefully you do a better job than me. Or remember, we can use the pattern. Since this is subtracting by 100 every time, we can actually subtract 100 and get 0. And we can subtract 6 and get 8. And I know this is a lot faster, but in case it didn't work out evenly or as easily, we do need to make sure we know how to do this, okay? So then we re-plug everything in. We get y equals 3 over 50x plus 8. All right, the table shows the volume of water released by Hoover Dam over a certain period of time. Graph the data, find the slope and the y-intercept from the graph, then write the equation for the graph in slope-intercept form. So why don't you pause here and maybe graph it? And then once you're done graphing, go ahead and unpause and see if your graph matches mine. So we have 5 and 75,000. And we have 10, 150, and 15, 225, and 23,000. Now, the tricky part about this is we don't know what the y-intercept is. So again, I'd like you to practice finding the slope and the y-intercept on the graph, or I mean on the table. So how about we pause and you guys see if you can find the slope of this using the table. So I expect to see work using the table when we return tomorrow. So when you subtract from here to here, we would get 75,000 each time. Right, because 150,000 take away 75,000 is 75,000, and so on. Then we would go this way, and these all become 5. So we're going to take 75,000 and we're going to divide it by 5. And when we reduce that out, we get a slope of 15,000, which could be difficult to find if you're using the graph because we only have 2 points we can actually perfectly use. We can mess up by the fact that these don't go by 10s or even 1s, and then same here, these don't go by 1s. So that's why it's always safest sometimes to use this. Now we could continue our pattern and subtract 5, we get to 0, and we can subtract 75,000, and the nice thing is we do get to 0. Now I do want to have the work to solve for b using the equation. So I'm going to use the smallest numbers just because that'll make it the easiest for us. So we're going to go 75,000 equals 15,000 times 5 plus b. So 75,000. If we do 5 times 0, we get 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. And then 5, 6, 7. Plus B. So we would subtract our 75,000. And then we also prove that B is 0. All right, we got our slope, we got our y-intercept. We're going to go y equals 15,000 x. And that's it. No plus because the y-intercept is 0. All right, a salesperson receives a weekly salary plus a commission for each computer sold. The table shows the total pay, P, and the number of computers sold, N. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation. So this is where I want you to pause. I want you to go and find the slope and the y-intercept. And honestly, at this point, you know what? I'm going to check that you did this problem. I want to see slopes being found, and I want to see y-intercepts being found, and we will go over it when we return to class. All right, so things to remember. First, find your slope, then find your y-intercept, and then substitute them into slope and y-intercept. So here's your independent practice. To rent a van, moving company charges $40 plus 50 cents per mile. The table shows the total cost and the number of miles driven. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation. So find your slope, find your y-intercept, and write the equation, just like we did in all the rest of the problems. So you technically have 2 problems to do, the one I just left blank, and your independent practice. All right, until next time, adios.